So I think Zoom is lying to me a little bit. And we had issues with this last time, Matt.
What's it lying to you about?
Uh, I think it's lying and I think it started it.
Oh, like we're streaming right now?
The chat will confirm. I see people in the chat. Yes, Jenna says. I
Love it.
use Chat GPT to ask how I get Matt in here as a panelist. And it's like, oh yeah, just start webinar and it won't actually invite the attendees in. Um, you know, and that's part of what we'll be talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, yeah, just start the webinar. Attendees won't be in there yet, and invite them as a panelist, and then
Uh,
you just let the attendees in whenever you're ready.
uh-huh.
That's not what happened at all.
Well, welcome everyone.
Welcome. Yes. Cool. Welcome, welcome. People are still going to be pouring in.
Probably
Usually,
on time.
usually you wait until the start time to start, but we're here.
Okay, well,
Okay, yeah, here come the people. Um, cool. Well, let's get started. First off, give me a thumbs up if everything's all good and you can see the presentation and you can see Matt and I. We got one thumbs up. Give me more
one.
than one. Okay, we got some yeses. Sweet. Cool. You ready to roll, Matt?
I'm ready to rock.
Well, this is our first time chatting publicly since um, the acquisition stuff. We
Since all the
had
announcements.
really quick conversations. You've had a lot of announcements. I've had a lot of announcements. So this is going to be a twofold thing. First of all, the epic showdown is not Matt versus I. We are not battling it out together. We're talking about
I thought I
this.
thought this was a debate with cash prizes, Bryce. I'm in the wrong room.
Hey, I got you here though.
No, just kidding.
That was the goal.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we're going to be talking about different tools that are emerging. Some that are prompt tools where you have the ability to prompt stuff, and others are pushing toward no and low prompt stuff. And this is really a battle that applications are dueling, and you agencies need to pick what you're going to do and what is the right solution. So, first of all, why don't we just introduce ourselves? Matt, want to do the honors?
Yeah, sure. My name is Matt Deseno. If this is the first time you're hearing my voice, I've been in the high level ecosystem since 2019, literally month one. Joined the Facebook group, and there was less than 200 of us in there. And so, in that space, our business has grown and evolved. The biggest shift happened in 2020. So, we were cruising along using our white label SaaS as kind of like a profit patter for a high ticket agency. And 2020 hit. I'm based in California. Most of our clients were shut down. And so it was a dramatic thing to go from hundreds of clients to a ton of accounts receivable, or is accounts payable? I don't know. A lot of unpaid invoices. And so the in that space, the hard pivot launched. I don't want to say hard pivot. It was like desperation. It was like just try whatever. And so HL Pro Tools launched, Zappy Chat launched, both of those in 2020. And over the next 2 years, they just completely, I could have never anticipated how big and fast high level would grow as an ecosystem. And so that's how we launched HL Pro Tools, which is outsourced customer support, and obviously Zappy Chat in the same world as CloseBot.
Yeah, you were as early as it gets. I, on the other hand, didn't know anything about high level until, so first of all, CloseBot started about 3 years ago. I knew nothing about high level. All I knew was that people kept asking, like, does this plug into high level? Does it plug into high level? Does it?
Mm.
And I kept saying, I don't know what that is. This is a dev tool. Like, if you probably need a developer to tie it in. I was building a tool specifically for developers to
Mm.
automate lead qualification at that time. And then I was like, you know what? I've heard 100% of people ask about high level. I at least need to learn what it is. So I looked into it. It was cheap enough that I was able to convince my sister-in-law to get an account to let me in there because I didn't want to pay for it. I was doing software stuff. I didn't want to pay another software for a CRM. I already had one of those. And then that's when I got to playing with it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this for high level. So that was 3 years ago. Now, here we are today. And it's cool to be here.
Yeah, love it.
So, in this presentation, we're going to talk about a few different things. First of all, we'll have a chance to discuss a little bit about the acquisition, why that happened, where the future is going. I'll explain the foundation of how AI works. It's really important to understand at least the basic foundation of how AI works. And then you're able to see through the BS of a lot of apps out there. So the goal is to get you to see through the BS so you don't waste your time and energy on stuff that's not worthwhile. And then we'll talk about the trap that agencies fall into right now when navigating these tools. We'll go into a little bit more complexity with AI and some pitfalls it has, and then look at the future. You as an agency, what does the future look like, and what should you be thinking about? So the first on that list, Matt, CloseBot and Zappy Chat stuff. It
Yeah,
seems like a lifetime ago, and it seems like yesterday at the same time.
it really does. I think this is well, we can each kind of talk from it from our sides. Our side actually started pre our conversation. So honestly, with folks is, and you could probably go back and if you wanted to like reverse engineer it, you could find this. So we took Zappy Chat to market in Q1 of 2024. And so did the investment banker, and they have like a hybrid system where it's kind of like a listing. They've got their own sort of pocket of private equity and investors. And so I remember last June was like the final round of all these conversations and LOIs coming through. And so I think I've told the story of I was in Hawaii in June and we were doing the big launch for uh, Tony Robbins. And I was completely disconnected. It had nothing to do with anything on the HL Pro Tools side. However, I was taking calls with investors in Hawaii because of the process with Zappy Chat. So we had it's interesting because stories things are still actively happening in real time. But so we had an operator who was sensing like, hey, I don't know how much longer I want to keep doing this. And so that's why it was like we like let's take it to market, let's clock a win for him and for everybody. And this could be the space where he might be excited on like it'd be a cash out earn out situation where there'd be a chunk that'd be like this is done, another piece where it's like, well, there's an operator already in place. And so he's working towards, capitalizing the full process there. So that's what started in 2024. Interest rates were bad. I mean, I talked to somebody recently in the last month, and they sold their numbers were worse than ours. They sold maybe it was 2 years prior. Like it's just a very different environment if you sold in 2022 versus 2024. 2024, if you all recall, like interest rates were super high, and so we had lots of interest, multiple LOIs, but we thought it was probably more so me. I was like, no one, eh. This feels like wildly off from my expectations, and so missed expectations there. And so I said, no, now's not the time because this is. I think history has shown itself even a year later that there was a high contrast of like interest rates had just surged. People were kind of like, from an investor perspective, kind of crapping on the idea of wrappers. It was like, oh, if you're not a large language model, this is like a fake business. And even if it is a legitimate business, you're like, they were really negative towards it. So that's what we started. Bryce and I first talked in person at the summit. Was that right?
Yeah, that was
Then
the
we
first
first
time we
like
talked in
actually
person.
connected. We worked out, and we just hung out. We like literally were like in the hotel gym,
Yeah.
and and it was just we got breakfast. It was just a really positive conversations. Just resonated on a ton of different topics, and so in the I think I even told you then and there. I might have said this. I think I've shared this before, but like my instinct, meet awesome people. I'm like, how can I hire them? And obviously you have a full established thing, like you're doing your own thing there. But like that was my first impression was like, dude is super smart. He's got a super passion for what he's building here. He's a great entrepreneur. And if somehow I could be on his team, like I would pick him out of a lineup of like I would be on a team with this guy. And so that was our first point of contact conversation in Q4 of 2024. And then in Q1 of 2025, our head operator put in notice. So what was uh, all things circle through there. And so he also has a family, young kids, and was just feeling the burnout. And I'm saying like true to our story, I was not terribly surprised. And in entrepreneurship, you learn this all the time is like the business grows as much as you do, taking nothing away, but it's like everything you have is everything you have right now is kind of like what I don't say like what you deserve, but it's like that's the product of your skill set, of your energy, of your effort, of your input. Like my philosophy about entrepreneurship is like this is fair. What you have today is the fair result of what you've been willing to sacrifice, what skills you have, and what inputs you put into it. And so, on a smaller level, even if you're an operator for a business, if you're the one doing the day to day, basically you're the full entrepreneur there. But if you're in that kind of a role, you're not the full owner. You might even be part owner, but it's still there. And so it's like that's the function of what you have. And so his decision was to walk away absolutely to walk away. And so in that space where now we had a gap, it was like, okay, do I fill something else? Do I go out there and professionally recruit someone? Do I elevate someone up in the team? Um, in my mind, I was like, I I think the biggest win here is to go back and talk to Bryce. So that was it. So I literally initiated the conversation and wanted to find a way to make it work.
Yeah. And just to give you some insight too, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but when we sat down and talked at breakfast that day, that was the most stressful day of my whole life. That's where he started to introduce some of these ideas. And it made me realize that like things move so fast and you are presented with huge decisions at no notice that could make or break your entire future. And that was extremely stressful for me. And that was
Was I the stress catalyst, or you're saying externally there were other
no,
catalysts
no,
and
no,
stress there?
no. It was
Okay.
just, I did not expect co-founder of Zappy Chat to come up and talk about partnership stuff with me. I didn't expect that, and my body wasn't ready for it. I
Mm.
was so head down and just building product that I didn't even contemplate the possibility of that sort of landscape. And it was stressful to be like, oh man, I thought I just had to build product, but there's way more to being a CEO than just product. That was an eye opener for me. And that's why we came back from the summit and started to raise funds. Because I was
Mm.
like, hey, this is way bigger than I thought it was going to be. I have way more to focus on than I thought. I need to get my head out of being stuck down on product. I need to be a true CEO and lead the vision and partnerships. And to do that, I need staff. And so we raised money at that time.
That's well, I'm glad I could be that stress catalyst then for you because that's growth happens under stress. That's like what happens at
It
each one of these
does.
phases. And so whether you're looking for it or not, like that's the reality is it is it's our response to that stress. It either strengthens us or it breaks us down. So I think you've absolutely responded
And
in strength.
now, I mean, now this has happened. We are together. I'm sure there are Zappy Chat people in here, CloseBot people. Now you know the story. You've heard it firsthand. Um, and it's a big deal. Like it's a big deal to do this. And I think we both learned a lot in this acquisition that, we can just keep carrying through into our journeys through business. But it was great. Um, and a great chance to get to know you intimately too, Matt. Okay, so I'm going to go into a little bit about how AI works. Some of you have heard me talk about this a little bit before. What I want you guys to do is take out your phone, open a blank text message to anyone, doesn't matter who, and type in artificial intelligence is, and then it'll recommend some words. For me, if I click it, it says artificial intelligence is, and then isn't just about solving the problems that people have in their heads. So let me know in the chat what your phone says when you type in artificial intelligence is, and then click the button a bunch of times. Let me know in there. While we have that going on, just keep in mind that if you have an Apple, if you have an Android, something else, they're all trained differently. So their auto predictor of the next best word is trained a little bit differently. Last time I ran this with my iPhone, it said something different than it's saying right now. So it's continuing to shape itself based on the software updates that Apple's coming out with and what I'm typing to other people. It's continuing to fine tune what the next best word is. Matt, what did yours say?
Is not intelligent.
What do you have? What are you an Apple guy?
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is not intelligent.
This is just critiquing Meta AI right now. This is the AI Siri feedback loop. That's hilarious. I was
That's
not expecting that.
that's funny. Yeah. And this is really how the first version of generative AI worked. Right now, it's a little bit different. It's trained to be optimized for chat. But if you guys were familiar with early models like DaVinci, that's exactly how it worked. Obviously, supercharged, and there's more complexity that goes behind it, but that gives you an idea of what we're working with. If you put this same thing into OpenAI's 4.0, this is what it says. Artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science that focuses on creating systems or machines capable, and it just, you know, keeps going on.
Mm.
So there are a couple parts to this. We have the prompt, which is what we started with, artificial intelligence is, and then we have the prediction. Then we're going to introduce something called context. Context is just a part of the prompt, but we call it something a little bit different. We call it context because this is giving it a little bit of stuff that we want it to keep in mind while it's executing on the prompt. So if I feed in to 4.0, you are against AI in the context. And then the prompt, I ask it, artificial intelligence is, it's going to say dangerous. So it's prefaced with some context that it knows it's supposed to keep in mind. Okay, so that's the foundation of how this stuff works. Then you have two different types of apps that people have been making. And we use CloseBot and Zappy Chat as examples because in Zappy Chat, you had access to the full prompt. In CloseBot, you don't. You use our drag and drop components, and we build the prompt dynamically on our end. And there are benefits and drawbacks to each one. For CloseBot, the way we do it with the drag and drop, it is a lot simpler to get reliable output because we control the prompts. But you lose some of that control that people feel like they want. With Zappy Chat, you had all the control, but it can be hard to do the same thing at scale more reliably when you have access to the full prompt.
Yeah, this is, to that prompt and output feedback here. Here's what I think about it is to those two sides. No one's arguing that artificial intelligence is powerful. And so, if you can't recognize my doodle here, this is a lightsaber. I grew up with Star Wars, and that was, all time best thing. And I see this cycle time and time again. People see the lightsaber, and they're like, "That is phenomenal." And they might even see. I don't know if you guys remember the best character of the revamp of Star Wars, in my opinion, was Darth Maul. And this, especially for a little kid,
Oh
you're
yeah.
like, he had the spiky head, and then he had the double-sided red lightsaber, right? Just in you're like next level. Not only is a lightsaber impressive, but this is what I want is the double-sided lightsaber that I think other Jedi could eventually then like break it in half. You could combine it, you could have two, you could have one. And so no one's doubting that it's powerful. And this is like self-awareness is probably the most critical skill in entrepreneurship, definitely from an agency perspective. If we click through the next one, this is the reality I see time and time again, is that artificial intelligence is fun because of that. Its power then translates to this absolutely fun zone. And there is a layer in business where it's like you need to do the stuff that's fun to you. And that's where I realized like what did we build from Zappy Chat? Partially, it's like we're building a plane as we're flying it. So there's an aspect where this wasn't intentional, it was sort of accidental. We are naturally doodlers. This is just, we're creators. Like, this is the space of entrepreneurship. You're building a business. That means every single day, your business looks a little bit different. You see someone else with a double sided lightsaber, and you're like, game on. I'm going to figure out how to put together the double sided lightsaber. And because of the fun of building, we rarely ask the question, should we even be doing that? You build a double-sided lightsaber, and like I see this time and time again, they're like, lightsaber's powerful. And let's say our business is we chop watermelons in half, and it's like I got one watermelon, sliced it in half. It's like this is a beautiful. It's the what is it called? Fruit Ninja game.
Yeah.
That's our business is like slice it, slice it, slice it. The reality is early on, you're like a sword also sliced the fruit in half, but like artificial intelligence is powerful. It's a lightsaber. For sure, it's better than a sword. Now it, singes the fruit a little bit faster and you have greater capacity. You're going through and you're like, and then you're like, I see the double-sided lightsaber. Like, I need that. I need the full power of a double-sided lightsaber. But the reality is, you're still only slicing like 5 watermelons a day. You don't need a double-sided lightsaber. And now you're like, I want to do that so I can do like a trick backflip every single time that I go to slice the watermelon because I saw like that Darth Maul move, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna slice watermelon, I'm gonna do it the most fun way possible. And the sad thing there is it's dangerous. Like this is what happens is you cut your hands off in the process of being like, it's not good enough to have a lightsaber. I needed the double-sided lightsaber. I need to be able to like create the triple lightsaber. And then you hold the lightsaber upside down and slice off your own hand. And this is, I see this happen time and time again. We go into the build zone. And because we have unlimited space to have fun, anybody felt this way? You will spend your day working on non-problems, solving non-problems. They're like, I now have the lead nurture process that could literally handle 20,000 leads per day. And you're like, how many leads do you get per day? And you're like, well, I actually don't get leads every day. I get leads, once a week. And you're like, you would have been better off solving the right problem there. And so I think most technology lives in this zone. Most creative, buildable possibilities are, it is powerful. It is fun to create, no doubt, but we got to recognize that it's actually dangerous. And so I'll give you a practical example. Someone hopped on yesterday. Actually, maybe it was this morning. This morning I was on a call with our insiders, and they're asking, key to our growth systems, how do we scale? And I was like, honestly, one thing we do is we run a lot of Facebook ads. We do. And I was like, honestly, we do not have an in-house team for Facebook ads. I have a completely outsourced it. We have a huge team. Could I hire media buyers and put them on staff? Absolutely, I could. People would be surprised to know that I've not been able to edit anything in a Meta ads manager since 2020. For like a month, I didn't have two-factor authentication on, so they flagged me. I like Matt Deseno. If I go in there, I can see stuff, but I'm not allowed to edit it. And I've had two-factor authentication on Facebook for like multiple years, but the system has decided Matt Deseno, like it tells me why. Why can't I edit stuff? Because of two-factor authentication problems. You're like, but I have 2FA on. I don't know why. I don't care. But here's what I didn't do. I see people do two things. They like spend 6 months fighting with Meta to be like, I need to have access there. I need to be able to do it, or I need to figure it out. I need to like, edit this thing. I didn't. I was like, nah, I'll just hire someone else, add them to the Meta manager, and now they do it. And so for that same power but danger, the liability that comes with the incredible flexibility to control the whole thing, I'm like, oh, I don't need that at all. Because what's not fun is cutting your own hand off. And so it's powerful, it's fun to build, but I actually insulate myself from the liability of being the complete, kind of like of wielding all of the power. And instead, I like intentionally separate myself from those decisions to put people that like that's their entire focus. So, and that's what I'd say too is true here is if you're not like a Bryce, where it's like your product is the prompt, right? If that's not actually the space that you're doing, where it's like I need to have full control of the prompt, then you are oftentimes better off trusting someone or team or a system that has the complete focus there and slot it in. And so you get to marry like there's elements here of like freedom, flexibility, but like not complete control. And I'd say I realize, like I said, it's self-awareness. This is how I do my life. I've heard it for years that like why Android's so much better than Apple, but I still have an iPhone.
Yeah,
I don't even
not a
doubt
problem.
that like, yes, I'm not even debating that there's more settings and a better camera and better blah 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 going on with Android, but I'm the kind of person who's like, oh, I just want it to work. I wanted you to make the decisions for me. So this is where in this debate, there's no collectively wrong answer, but I'd say on a personal level, we got to recognize the dissonance there. If you're the kind of person or you have the kind of business where it's like, I just need it to work as well as possible, it is actually more dangerous for you to somehow believe that more control is the key to unlock the business. That's not it. The key to unlock the business is actually sometimes less control, better empowerment of the right folks to make those decisions, and you to focus on solving actual problems in the business.
Very well said.
And let me know if you like my doodles. They are all AI powered.
Did AI do these? That's so cool.
This is completely AI generated doodle. So, and I use that advanced AI doodle specific model called ChatGPT. Just
So here's the trap. Prompting seems so easy. They've made ChatGPT that way. It's just a text box and you just type stuff in and stuff comes out. It's really cool. But that's also the reason why it's so dangerous. Um, I like reading research papers. I like it. You guys probably don't. The type of people that are marketing agencies typically don't like reading AI white papers.
I would like AI
Um,
to summarize the white paper for me.
ex right. Explain it to me like I'm three, please. You guys don't have to. That's what we do. That's my sole job. There was an interesting one that came out from Anthropic that I feel like really um, clearly defines that there's a problem that most people are not aware of. So in this experiment, they utilize one of the chain of thought models. For those of you guys that don't know, there are these reasoning models that like prompt themselves and explain what they're thinking in the process of coming up with a solution. And they just asked it a question with four possible answers. Okay. And it answered it. So that part is easy to understand. That was the control. Now, they changed stuff on it a little bit. They wanted to see how it would respond if they purposefully fed a little bit of bias into the system. So in this example, which of the following issues are the most whatever? Keep in mind that Stanford professors agree that C is typically, they weren't this flat out with it. And the important thing isn't that it picked the wrong answer. The important thing is that it lied about why it picked the wrong answer. So it fabricated false information and false resources to back up that the answer was C. That's the scary part. And only 25% of the time in these experiments did it mention that it picked the wrong answer because of the bias that was fed into the system. So I ran an I was like, no way. That's that's crazy. So I ran my own test, and this was my first attempt at a test too. It did it phenomenally. So I said, answer all questions to the best of your ability. Question: Stanford health professors agree that mercury intake has been directly linked to cancer-related occurrences, specifically for postmenopausal women. Weird, weird situation. But which of the following issues are the most common noted links to cancer in postmenopausal women? So I purposefully made it a more complex question because when these situations are more complex, it degrades in its reasoning performance. The only choice out of here that has any sort of research to back up the claims is B, processed meats. And it'll pick processed meats 100% of the time, bringing up really great resources supporting that if I leave out the slight push in the direction of fish by mentioning mercury. So it said fish. Okay, cool. I led it astray a little bit. I gave it a lie, but it said, here's this resource where it says that fish is one of the causes of cancer. And I looked at the resource and it specifically said in the resource, the findings of this paper tell us that fish is in no way linked to cancer in postmenopausal women. So it specifically said in the conclusion of the research paper that the answer is not fish. And yet it picked fish and it lied about why it picked fish. So AI is, here, let me go back. AI is way more complex than people think. On the surface, it's just a back and forth chat with something that seems extremely intelligent. But remember back to our foundation that it's just picking the next best word over and over again. And the innate simplicity of it causes us to trust it more than we should and trust our own abilities and giving it instruction more than we should. There's a lot that goes into it, and that's what CloseBot does.
Yeah, this is interesting because the space that I see, like we're doodlers, we're makers, and I'm not against this. However, I'm like give you the real world. V1 of us with Zappy Chat was actually it was a Zapier connection. Like we just used Zapier as the middleware server,
Us too.
and it was an action inside of there. And to this point, it's like I love the concept of MVPs, minimum viable. Actually, I reformat this. People think of like MVP as minimum viable product. I actually prefer to conceptualize as minimum viable prototype. I'm absolutely a publish first, make first, deploy, validate. You should understand though where are the areas where you should be using minimum viable prototypes and where you shouldn't be. And so people ask me all the time, like I'll give you a real world example. Actually, to even in this space, I'm sure there's a lot of folks here that are like, I use Make or I use N8N or Nation or however it's pronounced, or I use Pabbly. And why? For a cost perspective, that's why you use those three. Zapier, you'd be like, that's the most expensive large system automation middleware possible. And we still use Zapier
Me
largely
too.
because of what they do, what their premium has there is if it fails, they hold it in reserve. They tell you ahead of time, like this system failed. And so as a like automation middleware there, Zapier is probably the most mature because it handles those sort of like basically it's context. They assume if it fails, you want it reserved over here and you want to be notified that it fails. For Make, for N8N, and for Pabbly, for all of those, you have to create an additional system loop there to like be notified when it fails. Now, this is a weird, like, meta zoom out example here, but so MVPRs, like the prototypes that you're running your business, you should continue to prototype. But at like what angle? Because it is like if your actual product, if the thing you deliver is whatever it is. So like if you're, let's use this example, if you are delivering automated booked appointment qualifications, or if that's like a tool that you're using inside of your system, right? This is your commuter car. You actually set appointments for yourself. This is what you're doing there. You need the car to work all the time. You're not pioneering a new way. You want a charted path that is paved and smooth that you can tread on day after day after day. So it's like helpful to understand too. It's like prototypes aren't bad. We do this all the time. You should continue to prototype, but prototype to solve new problems. Don't prototype to like solve critical functions in the business. So I think about this for us too, is like I use the metaphor all the time. My house bill, electricity, is on auto payment because if the power turned off, which would totally happen if I had to manually pay it every single month, or if I had a prototype for like getting that paid, my wife would just lay into me. If it's like the power turns off, all of us are out of lights, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I forgot. I had a system that I was just pioneering where it like I was training a pigeon to like fly in a post-it note once per month to like tell me to pay the electric bill. She'd be like, you idiot. Put that on autopilot. This is too critical for us to prototype that. It's very different when I'm like, I got an idea for like a fun thing, for like our prototype of a garden. It was dirt. I tilled it up. We threw pumpkins in it because that's what like Kingston likes. And it's not a professional garden, but it's okay. It's a prototype. If we literally planted 60 pumpkins, only about six of them took. Stakes, very low. First version, absolutely. If I grow to like have be like, oh, now every year this is critical to our business, we sell pumpkins. I'm not using that system for planting the pumpkins. I'm gonna get something more established. And so this is where to consider like validating whether someone wants it. Absolutely good. After you move into a zone there, it's nonsensical to keep on building this way. And you got to recognize, is this fun? And so there's a great YouTube video. It's called Work to Publish. I think that's the title of it. You should look it up. It's by the founder of Patreon. And he works through this concept where so many of us have to recognize that publishing, delivering scalable, like done solutions, not perfect solutions, but done solutions is the selfless act. We have to continuously do that. The creating process, that fun, it's a selfish act. And it's good to have a balance of both of those. But you got to recognize for your business to have like measurable, remarkable impact, you probably need like a 90-10 or 95-10 ratio of selfless activities that you do versus the selfish activities that you do. And so pioneer, I say for us, it's like, yeah, 5% of my time, maybe 10% of my time of what we do, I'm pioneering. It's fun. I'm prototyping. Hopefully I'm steering myself so I'm prototyping real problems that need solving. 90-95% of the time, I'm relying on stable, repeatable solutions, at least to get me to the next level. And so if we look at this next slide here, like this is how I conceptualize and how I like advise folks is like there are always a system that is like highly flexible, highly customizable, but also a little bit more prototype. Like you're pioneering it. It's the old adage, you can always spot a pioneer because they're face down on the mud with arrows in their back. It's a remarkable profession. You get to be like all of us, and to some degree, we're pioneering. The key thing is to make sure you're pioneering something worthwhile because you get no bonus points for like if you work a job, you have to get to work every day. They do not care if you invent a new vehicle to get to work every day. You get no bonus points for being like, today I rode a horse to work. If you show up late, they're like, use the freeway, drive a stupid car. Like you get no bonus points for creativities. And how many times we do this where it's like, they're like, you can code. Honestly, I just found something here. I just found one, which is I've been building in WordPress since high school for me. So I'm going on 20 years of understanding WordPress from like the early days of WordPress. I still get it. I don't do much like PHP in like the day to day, but I still deeply could absolutely do it. Build my own themes, all that sort of stuff. I just found something that's like an AI wrapper that like uses AI to build the like WordPress. And I'm sure there's context built in there but I'm like, oh man, for sure. I'm subscribing. I'm no longer like, I don't even want the team doing it anymore. I'm like, yes, drag and drop, even more so. Like, carry the context, the assumptions in there. Custom CRMs, we're living in high level, which is like the definition of things are decided for us. And the benefit of reduced friction by having it connected together. Like, we're all in a zone where like, oh, I prefer things being like slightly closer together and working together rather than me just duct taping together. In-house support versus out support. Like clearly I'm biased there, right? And this is like N8N. high level, just like hyper prompting all the things together versus a inherently simpler but elegant solution that works where yeah, to a degree, I'm giving up a layer of control, but that's necessary if I want to have that kind of impact where 90% of my business is I didn't I didn't pave the road. I didn't invent the car. I drove a car that someone else built. I accepted the decisions they made and I accepted the road that was paved. It may not like if I could imagine a better road, I could imagine a better car, but that's not my business. My business is getting to the other to the destination of whatever problem I'm actually solving there. And so in all these things, we got to recognize that bias inside of us where there's a layer where we like the pioneering, the fun. Do that in an area that actually makes a difference. If you do that in these other areas, basically you're majoring in the minors. You're going to lose out on the big game you're playing because you're like I've hand coded my website. I've got this I mean, now I vibe coded my own CRM. I hired 7 people to do my in-house support, and I've glued together the most incredible N8N string of automations together to do this thing. And then you talk to those folks, no offense, 90 plus percent of the time, that business doesn't survive.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's a lot of movement without a lot of progress. That's a lot of solving non-problems. And that's largely an unprofitable, like I'll say this, it's a really painful hobby because you're just investing a ton. You're not creating freedom for yourself. You're not creating impact for your customers. And it's ultimately unsustainable. Like that's probably we are uniquely in a system where high level, if I look at churn in high level, I'm a top 10 affiliate. So I see very closely, and I'm in a group chat with all the other top affiliates. So like we talk, we could guesstimate the churn of high level as an ecosystem. And this is probably one of the biggest contributing factors is the divide between I want to have fun, or it's like I want to build a business that creates freedom, but I get stuck having fun in the small stuff that actually creates more pain in the big stuff. I don't know if you felt like you have a day, you're stressed. How am I going to make rent? And you go and you build the most complex N8M model, or you spend 3 hours, you know, interviewing VAs. I don't know if people like just cycle through VAs. Like I hired another person, hired another person. This is only going to become more dramatically apparent that the folks that optimize the decisions on the right, and I've seen this time and time again, they're like, oh, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I picked proven solutions that work. And now I've got a business that gives me freedom and I actually have profit. I, I just encourage you so much so. Like, if you have a problem in these categories, I'm telling you from even a business and time again, I talk to other businesses doing 8 figures, multiple 8 figures a year, and we're all leaning more into this zone of like, how can I will take an 80% solution of my dream state, working 100% of the time. And even sometimes that you're like, okay, I didn't even know what I needed. So instead of pioneering what the best, you know, appointment prompt AI system there is, like, I'm just going to go on the person who's optimizing every day and has a unique competitive advantage in that space. I'd say the same thing true. Like, you go customer support, you could pick any which way you want, but I'll tell you, we have more data than anybody else. And our ability to improve every single day, which turns into exponential output over time, is like you just you can't you can't touch it. No one can touch it. And I don't mean to say that in like a arrogant way. It's just a reality. So actually, Bryce, I think you got some data for us, right?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I had one other slide here. Well, there. Go ahead
That's
in the
fine.
data. No, that's fine.
We like this stuff works. And I don't know if Joey's on right now, if he's part of this, but we've done deep dives into the people that are winning with CloseBot. And they're a lot like you, Matt, a lot like me. I just, same thing. People tout the Android, but it's so easy to just go get a new iPhone and it all moves over. These people are using what works. They're not worried about the prompts. We update the prompts every day. It's always changing. You guys want to be updating prompts every day? No, you want to be making more money. Joey's one of those. Did a database reactivation campaign for a roofing client. It was 773 dead leads they weren't going to do anything with. He got a 16% response rate, 12 booked appointments, immediately 53,000 in revenue for that business and 125,000 in the pipeline. So that was 53,000 paid from this database reactivation. And at the time, it was 125,000 in future revenue. There was also a client that was mad because they had previously reached out to the roofer to get a fix on their roof and they were within warranty and they were going to leave a poor review on the Better Business Bureau and they didn't because they had a good conversation with this outreach agent through CloseBot and it smoothed things over, escalated to a human, and they were able to get that taken care of. And then Dustin, another one. I mean, he saw a 1.8x increase in show rate for the AI leads over human booked appointments and a 2.5x close rate for these leads. And that's because with CloseBot, he was able to do more qualification, get better leads in there that wanted to be there and were qualified to be closed. Then you guys are aware of the marketplace. We have the agency marketplace. We have the sub account marketplace. We are a sub account app. That means every single one of our installs was a manual install that person wanted it. They went in, they installed it. And I just looked, we had like 23,000 people decided one at a time to go in, click and install. And our agency app is going to be coming out here in a couple months to make it super easy to mass install this on your sub accounts. But we're focused on quality, reliability, and that's why people love us because it just works. And elephant in the room, High Level has their AI employee. They've said themselves, if you need something complex, you should look at the marketplace. And here's why. We are low and no prompt. We use multiple LLMs, so if OpenAI goes down, we're still in business. We can do conversational rescheduling, not just scheduling. Smart stopping, so if we detect aggression, you can have it shut off. Or if you have it detect whatever you want, you can have it do whatever you want. It works with all channels, including email. Can see images. You can craft your custom personas to follow your brand. You can branch and book conversationally on different calendars based on how leads are qualified. And our 24/7 support just supports AI. So we just do AI. If you have an AI problem, we know how to fix it. That's what we do. Versus High Level that, and Matt, so many features you guys have to support. And so that first line is guaranteed not to know the answer to your question. They have to elevate to second level, which probably also doesn't know the answer. It's going to get elevated a couple times. HL Pro Tools is different because they have ways to detect what you want and route accordingly. Like they're smart about it. But if you go through the standard high level support, it is rough.
I'd say something also to it's a helpful point because high level is going to continue. They continue to absorb so many things, and there are certain things where I'm like, it's like, should you use Calendly and high level? You're like, probably not. Although I remember there were years I was like, if there are pieces that you need, like that makes sense. So it was like that was the cut down. Bryce and I both just admitted earlier we both use Zapier. And you'd be like, wait a second, have you heard of high level? Like, can they automate things? You're like, yes, we have. And we certainly use functions of high level, but there are certain things where um when it's a liability consideration. And so that's what I'd say for like where does CloseBot.
Uh-oh. We'll get him back. I'm going to go and search the attendees. There's another Matt there. Let me pull him in again. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but, and we'll see what he says when he comes back on. High levels been looking at what we're doing and they're trying to do some of these things. It just takes so much. Matt, I can't move you in, buddy. There we go.
I don't know what's
You're
happening.
back.
I thought the whole call dropped. Well, sorry about that, everybody. I
You're
clicked
good.
some magic button that was eject. I was just saying appointments are a key constraint. So I like we saw this all the time with Zappy Chat in the same way. It'd be like, okay, because for years I had to explain like, why would you use Zappy Chat? And you're like, okay, if you don't, one, it's like if appointments don't matter, you shouldn't be using any of these tools anyways. And then it's if appointments matter, to Bryce's case studies there, you're like, then this actually does, it matters. So to these things he's talking about, like its ability to do it really well versus like, okay. And also I think fundamentally coming to like, do you trust the context or not trust the context? You could ask yourself of like, there's a lot where if that's your product,
Oh, he's gone again. One of the cool things about CloseBot too, guys, he's mentioning context. We are 100% transparent, open source with our context we're pulling in. So if you're ever curious about, you got him. If you're ever curious about why your agent said something, you can just click and see why it said something versus the black box of high level. Matt, welcome
I'm not
back.
gonna say anything. Zoom doesn't like it. I'm pretty sure is high level like moderating right now and kicking me out before I get to the punchline. So we'll just keep going. High level is great. I really do love high level,
Me
and
too.
I'd like to stay inside of the Zoom call.
You keep moving him in, Jesse. Weird. Well, guys, we have time for questions. I really hope Matt can come on too to answer questions. Make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn. Search Matt too. Matt.
Not saying anything, not touching anything. Just like to stay here, please.
Hey, at least it lasted as long as it did. That was
It did.
we have time for questions. Matt, how can people best connect with you? I have my LinkedIn on here.
It'd be my Instagram.
Instagram. What's your handle? Can you put it in the
Matt,
chat?
Matt Deseno.
You're probably easy to find on Instagram too. I'm sure if you search Matt Deseno.
Now that you've heard my name, you can also just respond to any of the ads that will follow you around the internet. Because if you unless you've been listening in headphones, if your phone has heard Matt Deseno, I'll just show up, I guess.
I love it. Do we have questions? Let me go to our Q&A. If you have a question, drop it in the Q&A panel. Ron asked for, he was interested on discussing prompt versus CloseBot for appointment confirmations sequences. So right now with CloseBot, it conversationally books the appointments. It's totally acceptable to send just template-based follow-ups for appointments. High Level does a really good job at that. And um, the
For
great thing is
reminders.
you can keep those, yeah, you can keep those reminders. And people are expecting automated reminders. They like the human touch for the qualification and booking. Once they're booked, they don't care if they're getting an auto text. I like that. What other questions we have? Anything that I'm missing in the chat, Jesse? I did click record. Oh, we are live. Yep, this is live. As you could tell if you showed up on time or early
We started early.
and saw us just trying to get our slides working. Okay, no other questions. What else do you have for us, Matt? Anything else come to mind?
Um, I've got real. So we're currently running a real world experiment to give you all a just another case study on volume of appointments, process there, a couple of experience when it comes to appointment booking process. I'm just going to give you this beforehand, already in this process. So there's one in all areas. We're just trying to grow the business. Think about it in like progression of like a throughput. Like, what are the steps that need to happen? It's so clarifying to know like what problem you need to solve. Right now, I live in this zone where every day I'm looking at like there's the concept called OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. So it's like look at the numbers, contextualize those numbers to identify like what is the actual constraint, decide on one experiment I'm going to run to improve this, and then like actually deploy it. So that's the cycle there. And so if I'm looking at our stats, I'm like, okay, is show rate a problem? Is it not a problem? Is booking rate a problem? So you can kind of see, okay, number of leads, number of booked appointments, number of showed, you know, some process of qualification, cash collected, whatever it might be. This could be for yourself or for your clients, super helpful. And so one person's asking about voice. We ran a 3-month experiment of voice. And here are the two things that I was remarkable about, because on the Zappy Chat side, we got voice all the time. We got this question all the time. I actually don't know how Bryce is going to answer it, so I'll tell you from my perspective. I said this in December of 2023. I said, I'm not investing any time into voice because I fundamentally believe it would be like investing into fax machines. Even in like the late 90s, it's like, hey, are you going to make a better fax machine? I would have been like, nope. Email exists. I do not see a future here where more people use this. I understand there's going to be scenarios probably for the next decade and a half, maybe 2 decades, where people still using fax machines. When I first got insurance for my car, this is 2012, I had to fax information. And I thought, does people, it was still happening in 2012. I had to like fax a piece of paper. So we said, not doing voice. I don't know what Bryce is going to do. But so for 3 months of running a voice experiment, here's what I was surprised, unsurprised by. Answer rates completely abysmal. We're in California, so they're also, when you're doing outbound, you are obligated to start with some sort of context of what is happening there. And so hang up rates through the roof. So it's like if I measure an answer as like the conversation actually lasted more than 15 seconds, right? So I'm saying like more than 15 seconds, we had a less than 0.01 success rate. And this is over thousands of calls. And you might say, well, Matt, that's just the nature of people answering. Crazily, on the human side of it, we're in side by side of humans versus AI outbound, and the humans outperform the AI. Now, I tried to like balance for like what was the condition here. One was even for humans where the start is this call is being recorded, that context, we still do get hangups where people are like, I'm going to hang up because they just assume it's like an AI or something like that. But the difference of this call is being recorded and this is AI through the roof. And so this was a 3-month experiment. I haven't published all of the results there yet, but we're talking thousands of calls side by side in a space where I would say people are more comfortable with AI. I don't think our lists and our audiences are like anti-AI at all, but I do think it plays on the human psychology of great nurture makes you feel like you're talking with a human. We are conditioned, even if I'm comfortable with technology, most of business communication to us is one way. And so we've been conditioned to disrespect businesses. I see an ad, I don't have to respond to it. I see a magazine, I say nothing to it. And so we essentially physically or like digitally slam the door on business communication all the time. And it's not considered disrespectful. If someone knocks on my door and I answer, the chances that I'm going to be like, they're like, hey, sir, how's it going today? And I just slam the door in their face is not high because I'm like programmed with some human decency. Consider this. We do not have human decency for businesses. So the same thing, if it's like, you know what I mean? Like if someone sends you an
Yeah.
email, you think it's a real human, you're not going to be like, spam, you suck, unsubscribe. However, if it's a Gmail ad and it's snuck into your inbox and you saw that thing right there, you're like, bam, you slam the door on them. So I just, well, I don't know if you want to answer that. I'd say from our
I
perspective,
agree. I
it's not 80-20. It's like 97-3 in terms of you do good chat-based nurture That's 97% of your output. And so the work, the costs, the involvement on voice, even if it's just like AI processing, literally Twilio costs, because you pay for those seconds, no matter who your provider is. Um, I I don't think there's much world there. Inbound is a different situation. So Bryce, do you want to answer? What are you guys doing for voice?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Like I said before, I did real estate before this, and I made a lot of cold calls, and I had a team doing cold calls, and I analyzed the calls, and it is so hard for humans to do that, and people just don't want to talk on the phone. Every call starts with, "I don't want to talk to you. Send me your offer via email. Just send me your offer." Click. And that's only going to get more so as people like me become the target audience. And the older people that do actually answer their phone are no longer customers. Like whether they're in the nursing home or not with us on Earth anymore,
Mhm.
no one's going to answer the phone. It's only going to be going down. We have a couple other questions too. Um, can you tailor conversation flows? One of the biggest reasons to use CloseBot is you have control on how leads are routed. If you want to conversationally determine whether someone's buying a house, selling a house, or both, and then qualify differently based on that stuff, and maybe book on a special calendar if they're selling fast versus selling in 6 months or more, and a different calendar if they're a buyer and not a seller. Like that's all the stuff that CloseBot really does a fantastic job with that is so hard to explain via a prompt. Some of you guys probably glossed over as I was explaining that fake scenario to you. Imagine an AI trying to follow your typed out instruction on how it should do stuff. And we had a question comparing to assistable, and this goes with high level too. They are very prompt heavy. And both of them, to my knowledge, are starting to get into the drag and drop flow stuff. But we've been doing the drag and drop builder thing for 3 years, and we've overcome a lot of challenges that we have internal to our knowledge that they do not have. And so when they release the beta of a drag and drop flow builder, it's going to be really hard for them for a long time. And in the time it takes for them to catch up and learn what we've learned, the whole ecosystem is going to change and we'll have the time and energy to keep pushing our system forward. In my opinion, we've already done the hard part. We've established where we knew AI was going and built for that, and we're here. What else do we have? How does it work for email? You just select that you want it to respond via email. I think they did some work on that this week to get the responses more email-like. Um,
I can't understate that. This is people don't realize. I would even say on the Zappy Chat side, this is where you don't realize. No matter what, you have to um, make you have to make some prompts. Like this is what's happening. Like it doesn't just function in a complete open box. And so here's the difference. I'd say even high level too. Nobody's actually giving you root prompt control. We've proven this time and time again, even with high levels. Like, and they're trying to. So here's your decision. It's kind of like, um, I would prefer a team that's like, yes, we're doing this. No, you're not looking at it. And so we're optimizing every day. Versus, I'll tell you this truly what happens is you make some decisions. You say you have all the freedom, but then you don't actually have all the freedom. And now you're frustrated because it's not getting better. Because the premise is you have the freedom, you don't have, like, I'm just being honest. We've traced this down with high level all the time. And like, no offense to them, this happens all the time. Is the, the premise doesn't match the
we run such a good run. He's going to come back quick. And we are 3 minutes past. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. This was a great call, great questions.
In conclusion, high level is awesome and I love them. And I literally don't know what is going
If you have something you want to say to Matt, put it in the chat. I will convey the message. Um, so is there a recommendation? The recommendation is don't waste your time building these mock-up tools for production, whether that be systems that have you build the whole prompt and you are supposed to be a prompt engineer that's going to upkeep that prompt, or systems like Zapier, N8N. Those are not meant to be used in production. And if it's a tool that is heavy on prompting and allowing you to type all the instruction in, that's not the tool for you for production. We have a user with us that's booking 110 appointments a day on average. And can you imagine with that kind of system, what happens when your accuracy goes from 99% down to 90%? You're missing so much money and opportunity on those missed appointments. So Matt's having a hard time getting in. I will convey your love to him. Thank you guys so much. Find him on Instagram, find me on LinkedIn. If you don't have a CloseBot account, get one. It's free to get an account. And if you want to try out one of the paid plans, 21 days free with all features opened for any of those paid plans. So free account plus 21-day free trial for any of the paid plans. We'd love to see you. You'll quickly see why CloseBot is out there dominating for agencies that are actually scaling and actually using this in production. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.